One of the things that I would have to say was the biggest asset in becoming a writer. It wasn't any of the seminars that I have attended, because I've attended some really good ones. I have been to some great workshops presented by some really top-notch authors, editors, and publishers that have given me a lot to go on. I've talked with a lot of other authors that have given me a lot of inspiration, a lot of suggestions, a lot of tips. But the thing that I come back to that has really helped define what I do and why I do it is a PBS special with Bill Moyers interviewing the great scholar Joseph Campbell, and it was entitled The Power of Myth. And one of the things that Joseph Campbell explains is how we have a deep-seated psychological need that is fulfilled by the art of myth. And I'm not talking about the typical myths from classical literature, which, explain natural phenomena, natural features, historical events, or so forth. I'm talking about the format that a myth follows. And you can find it, obviously, if you read Bullfinch's mythology or Edith Hamilton's mythology, or, any of the works of talking about Perseus, Medusa, Theseus, Hercules, and all that. But you also find them in our fairy tales. The Brothers Grimm, Snow White, Cinderella, The Brave Little Tailor, all these things follow the same format. And that is where the main character has a certain perception of themselves and their world, their strengths, their weaknesses, which basically boils down to being a totally blank canvas. And then circumstances come about that forces them to reevaluate that. Cinderella, she had a loving family, and then her mother died, her father remarried, her father died, and she was left with, the wicked stepmother and her wicked stepsisters who, treated her horribly. And then all of a sudden, she encounters a fairy godmother when she has a chance to go to the ball and possibly meet a prince and maybe get out of the situation she's in. You also have stories where, young man has to go on and find himself. Luke Skywalker, Star Wars. George Lucas drew from this perfectly. You have Luke Skywalker, who grows up on a farm, barren desert, backwater planet. He's being cared for by his aunt and uncle. He realizes he has parents, but they're both gone. He knows nothing about them. And then all of a sudden, he comes across these droids. He finds out about this mysterious fellow that, lives off out in the desert. And he goes looking for him, finds out that he's the son of this, great starship captain and Jedi Knight, and ends up embarking on this whole message of self-discovery. Well, Cinderella has to go and face all these challenges in how she's going to get to the ball. Luke Skywalker has to face all these challenges. How is he going to rescue Princess Leia? And in the process, they find themselves, being guided by a mentor, a father figure, a mother figure, somebody that's going to help teach them all of their gifts and abilities that at the last minute, when they really could use them, is gone. And then that point on, the main character has to come across and figure out, how am I going to do this? How am I going to deal with all of the lessons that I've learned, all of the things that I've discovered? And then they're faced with the challenge. They're faced with the climax. They have to contend against some force that's always trying to stop them. With Cinderella, for example, it was the wicked stepmother and her wicked stepsisters. With Luke Skywalker, it was Darth Vader. Theseus, it was the Minotaur. With Hercules, it was Hera. But also his own impetuous impulse, which is another factor in writing, how the person themselves can be either their best friend or their worst enemy. But again, that all goes back to that psychological need in the power of myth. With Luke Skywalker, he finally decides at the last minute when he's in the Death Star going through that ditch, he's going to just trust the Force. He's going to trust everything he's been taught and he accomplishes it. Cinderella has hung on to that other glass slipper because even though everybody else is trying to co-opt what she's doing, she knows that she is the one that the prince is looking for. Hercules, he just stays faithful to trying to do the right thing and being faithful to his basic characteristics. Theseus, he realizes he's got to rely on his wits and, to defeat the Minotaur, to save the children of Athens, to put an end to this horrible struggle that they have to deal with and defeat the Minoan. So all of these things, from ancient times to contemporary events, follow that certain format. Another thing that I draw in as a writer is my own experience as a professional wrestler. I was a professional wrestler for about 11 years. And growing up watching wrestling, I wasn't aware of the breakdown of how a good wrestling match follows along with a good myth. Once I got into wrestling and I became actively involved in not just wrestling, but wrestling a match, not just learning the techniques, but learning the whole psychology behind a match, I find out that now I am still a storyteller, but I'm doing it in 3D because I'm in the ring. I'm actually one of the characters. I could be the good guy, also known as the babyface, or I could be the bad guy, the villain, also known as the heel. It depends on how the promoter wanted to use me in that situation. But in classic wrestling, not so much anymore because I've kind of got away from this, but in the old formats, wrestling was really the survivor of the medieval morality plays, because you had the good guy who followed the rules, who did everything he was supposed to, and you had the bad guy who knew how to bend and break the rules and get away with it, because he was always doing it. He was never getting caught. He was never getting punished. Well, each match would start out with the good guy showing up, locking up with the bad guy, showing him what he was capable of, showing him his skills, getting the advantage over the villain, and he's going to win, no problem. Not quite so much. Usually right about then, the villain, realizing that he's going to be outmatched, cheats. He pokes him in the eye, he pulls the hair, he uses a foreign object, he distracts the referee and does a cheap shot. Anything that the authority figure doesn't catch. And he keeps doing it now that he's got the advantage over the good guy, so he can press home his advantage, override all of the skills and abilities that the good guy has to hopefully win the match. The good guy is trying to follow the rules and do everything he's supposed to, and he's getting frustrated because here's this guy cheating and getting the advantage over him, and he's doing what he's supposed to. So what does he do? Well, like you'd think. He decides, I'm going to do it too. Well, this time, the authority figure, the referee, sees him because, being the good guy, he's stepping out of his character to become a villain, to cheat, to pull something that he's not used to doing. He gets caught. Now he's even more frustrated. This helps the villain press home the advantage. Now he's got him in a compromised position. He usually does some kind of a hold that it's almost impossible for the good guy to escape from. Somehow or other, usually with the support of the crowd getting behind him, chanting 1, 2, 3, or USA, or something to really help the guy get into a rhythm and draw from some inner strength, he starts making a comeback. And once he does, he's going to give that guy all the punishment he deserves, and he starts in and he lets him have it. He gets him in the ring. He's going in for the kill. Bang. Gets blocked. He's got to start all over again. But there's a challenge now, because now he's tired. Now he's injured. Now he's getting frustrated and discouraged. What's he going to do? Is he going to throw the match? Is he going to work hard at it? Is he going to try and overcome everything? Is he going to say, the heck with it, I'm just going to cheat? Or is he going to stay faithful to himself? These are all the questions that the people watching the match have going through their minds. That is, if the person wrestling is any good at what they're doing. And the main thing is telling a story. Now, typically, they will take advantage of one mistake that the villain will make. Being too confident, too cocky, going to the well one too many times, as it's called. And then once they get the advantage, the good guy doesn't surrender at this time. He makes sure he stays on him. He wrestles that match to the end, gets the bad guy in the center of the ring. Ring the bell, we have a winner. That's what I have to do in my stories. What challenges is the main character going to face? The protagonist. It could be the hero, it could be the heroine. What advantages do they have? What disadvantages do they have? How do their own values, views, attitudes, prejudices support them, distract them, make them recognize potential threats, make them ignore potential benefits? How is this all going to play out? How's the story going to end? If you're any good at what you're doing as a wrestler, the people will not want to go get popcorn or soda or take a bathroom break until that bell rings. If you're any good at what you do as a storyteller, they're not going to want to do that until they've reached the last page.